Core.
You are listening to Core, a show on Code Zero Radio that plays bands located in the Fox Cities. A show to find and discover new music. Hosted by Andy McNamara.
My next guest is a professional musician since age 12. Jackson Mankowski grew a love for music while watching his dad perform around various places. Jackson's journey ended up taking him out west and back. He recently released a live version of Giving In that was recorded at the Heist in Ripon, Wisconsin. I'd like to welcome Jackson Mankowski to Fox Cities Core. Jackson, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. And this is great that you're back in the Fox Cities. How does it feel to be back? Well, back in the area. How does it feel to be back here?
It feels amazing, honestly. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time in De Pere because that's where I'm living at the moment. But I've been coming up to Appleton a lot and playing shows like at Gibson Music Hall and kind of rekindling all the connections and friends and everything from back in 2015 before I moved. So it's been really nice. Yeah, it's been like a good welcome home kind of, you know.
Do things seem any different since when you left?
Kind of. Definitely the artists are, like, there's different artists that I haven't heard of. And I've been coming back in the summers throughout the past 8 years, so I kind of was familiar with the scene a little bit, but I've seen a lot of new artists that I really love. And I think maybe Mile is helping bringing them into the Fox Cities area too. And kind of, I feel like there's a lot of younger musicians too, kind of coming up around the area too in the scene that I'm really impressed by that I think is really cool. So yeah, that's what I've noticed.
Well, let's kind of start. It's always fun to kind of find out how your musical journey started.
Yeah.
I know that your dad, Woody Mankowski, was in a band called Big Mouth, which was started, I think, in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And obviously that must have rubbed off on you, seeing him perform and be. A little bit. Were you going to a lot of shows?
I grew up going to his shows my whole life since I was like a baby. I'd like fall asleep, you know, with my mom holding me like at these bars, you know, with like really loud music happening all around and I'm just sleeping, you know. And so I kind of grew up going to his shows and seeing him evolve as an artist and where that took him. And it kind of, it was just a big part of my life. There was a lot of music at the house, just playing all the time on vinyl and turntables and playing through the stereo like all day long. He'd just put new records on, you know, all day when we're at home. And then I'd just follow him to his shows everywhere he went. So I'd get into all the bars and all the places in Door County and Green Bay and Sturgeon Bay and like, everywhere in Wisconsin actually, until he started traveling with it a little more.
Was it something when you were watching him early on, was it something that you thought you wanted to do right away, or did that feeling not take over until you were playing shows since the age of 12, so I don't know how old you were when you were.
I think I thought that, I thought it was like normal to be a musician or something. Like, I mean, like I kind of thought everyone kind of had it in them or something, but so I was like, I'll give it a shot. And so I started singing and I learned a couple songs. So like I kind of said to him one day when I think I was like 10 or something, I wanted to pick up the guitar. So he tried to teach me Three Little Birds, you know, by Bob Marley, because it's only 3 chords. It's E-A-D, you know. And so that was the first song I played. And then I learned a couple other songs and I sat them down in the living room one night and I just played them for him and to my parents. And they were like, we're going to have you sing at one of his gigs. So I think at Ledgestone Vineyards is the first time I sang a song. It was Count on Me by Bruno Mars, and I sang it for my dad's birthday or something when I was like 12. But then after that I started booking more gigs around town and but yeah, I figured out later that it's kind of not, I mean, like a lot of people are musicians, but I grew up with it just being everyone who I knew too, like became my friends were my dad's friends who were musicians. And so I kind of was always around musicians. And so I assumed I would be one, you know, and then I kind of like took a stab at it myself eventually.
So when your parents were both playing records around the house, you more than likely liked what they were playing, and then eventually you probably gained your own sort of taste in music. What did you drift? I know your dad was probably into jazz.
Yeah, lots of jazz.
What did you end up sort of migrating towards after?
He was into like jazz and soul, Motown a lot. So Al Green, Otis Redding, Ray Charles, John Coltrane, like Chet Baker, you know, and all the classics, and that kind of rubbed off on me. The R&B vocals of like Sly and the Family Stone, you know, like if you want me to stay, that kind of thing. And he would always sing those at his gigs too, like Stevie Wonder, and so I would hear all of these classic songs, and then I just started doing those, and I started sitting in with Big Mouth too. And that was good to get me out there performing more. But then I started writing songs, and all I had was an acoustic guitar. So I just kind of had to start learning acoustic music too. And then I got my own influences with that. But it all kind of stemmed from Motown soul and what he was listening to. So, yeah.
And does that still kind of flow into what you're doing today, those early influences?
Definitely. Yeah. I try to add a little like Motown soul influence with the acoustic Americana, like roots blues country vibe, you know. Yeah. Well,
what ended up driving you out towards LA? I know you went to the I'm probably not going to say this right, the Lasha High School.
Yeah, it's it's kind of hard to. It took me a long time to figure it out too, but it's called LACHSA. It's LACHSA, I think, and LA County High School for the Arts. And I had to audition to get in, and I went there for my sophomore year of high school for the whole year, and then right before the year ended, I became homeschooled again, because before that I was homeschooled. So I went for a whole year, made a lot of good friends who were artists, and because there was the, like, I got in as a vocalist. I tried auditioning for drums too, but I knew I didn't want to get in for drums, so that audition was like really funny. You know, I kind of purposely
sabotaged yourself.
Bit. But then with the vocals, I knew I wanted to get in as a singer, so I really went hard with that. And I'm trying to think of what songs I learned. I don't remember. But anyways, there was the musicians, there were the actors, there were the cinematographers, there were the dancers, so all the arts would happen after, I think, 12:30. And before that, we'd do academics, normal academics. So I had like vocal fundamentals where we'd learn Italian arias and sing them. And I had to do it for I think it was like a recital, you know. And the music chair was going to be there, and I purposely told everyone not to go. And so I had to learn this Italian aria, and we had a piano player backing us. And I just think this is a funny story to tell, like, because I told everyone not to go. And so they knew I liked this girl at the time. So they brought her and sat her right next to me, like behind me, you know. So, and then the room was only filled, like this big theater, with our parents and like two other friends of mine that I didn't want to be there, and like my classmates, you know. And so I got up, and something messed me up, and I messed up the words, and it was in Italian. So instead of stopping, because I knew you shouldn't just stop, you know, you gotta try to continue. So I started making up Italian and singing that, and I don't even remember what that sounded like, probably just gibberish, but that was pretty funny. So that was like my experience with that too. But that was cool. We got to go to LA Opera a lot. Yeah.
So you were there 1 year. I mean, that must have, was it something that you're glad you did?
Definitely. Okay. Yeah, it for sure. And I still have friends from there too, that I've seen get super successful. Yeah, like there was someone in my vocal fundamentals class. His name was Chosen. That's his name. Pretty cool. And but he was in there, and then he just left for a couple months, and we were all like, "Where did he go?" You know. And then, but he would show up at the parties for like our friend's party, and we find out like months later he's in the It movie, you know, with the, like as one of the main actors in it, and then some other, like we had Alec Benjamin before he blew up, the singer-songwriter. He has like Let Me Down Slowly and The Water Fountain and those songs. He came in for our songwriting class which was only like the 6 of us in there. And when he had like 20,000 followers on Instagram, and within like 2 months, he got to 1 million followers. And after that, and I knew he was going to blow up because of his unique voice and his songwriting skills. And so that was cool. They kind of brought in people that if I didn't go there, I would have never met a lot of the people that influenced me. You know?
Is there a lot of pressure, like being out in California versus here where you're growing up? And you mentioned like the Instagram followers. I mean, that's pretty much whatever you do now. There's the followers. But when you're out in California, you're around so many people that are so driven, and that's what they're out there for. Like a lot of people have gone out there just to hit it hard. Do you feel that it's harder almost to get your footing kind of coming up in a place like that versus whether you would have stayed here?
Yeah, because, well, it's just kind of being like a minnow in the ocean out there, you know, and everyone's trying to be a musician or an actor, it seems like. And also people, I feel like, already know each other, who are really good friends there, who have really good soulful friendships and stuff. That's because they grew up there together. But if you're coming in from out of town, it's really hard to meet people, at least with my experience, because then I was homeschooled after I went to that school. So, and then COVID happened, and I was trying to like get my name out there with not much behind me to book shows. And then, it was just kind of more difficult over there. But here, like compared to the Fox Cities and Green Bay, and it's just so easy to find gigs around here, and people, you have soulful connections with them, and the people really listen and appreciate it. That's also a thing, is that I feel like my music didn't resonate with the people of LA as much, but over here it really resonates with them. So I'm going to try to take that to Nashville too and see what happens there now. But for the time being, I'm living here. But so that was kind of my experience with it. Yeah.
When you were going to the high school there for the year, I mean, you were, it sounds like, basically working on cover songs. When did you start writing your own material?
I started writing when I was probably 13, but I didn't put anything out until I was 15, I think. Maybe 14 I released an EP, but when I was 15 is when I kind of started putting stuff out. Yeah. Was
that something that your dad was behind, was getting some original material written?
Yeah, he was always a big advocate of that. He was like, you need to write your own songs. That's kind of what sets the musicians apart, you know, makes them unique, is like your own songwriting. And so, yeah, I started writing some pop songs. I think the first one I wrote was I Wish About You. And I was like, this is going to be a hit, man. It's the first song I wrote, you know. And I was like, and the U is going to be a U. It's not going to be Y-O-U, you know. It's going to be U. It's going to be trendy and cool. And then I never released it, and I got embarrassed by it after like a month. And then I started writing a lot of songs until, but then I started thinking, I don't know how to record these myself, so I had to find other people to go record with. But Dan Rodriguez from Minneapolis, who plays at Mile of Music now, I met him through Mile of Music, I think, years ago. And we recorded together, but I'm forgetting before that, I met Sam Luna, who was playing at Mile of Music, and then he introduced me to Brian Gottlieb of Tundraland. Or it might have been Brian introducing me to Sam, but either way, I wrote a song with Sam called Paint You a Picture, and then he talked to Brian about it, and we talked to Mark Goldie about it, about some songs that I had. And so we decided to record a project, and that was my first project, was at Rock Garden Studios, and we did, I think, like a 4-song acoustic EP, and then I came back a year later and from LA, I think, and I recorded an actual like band EP with people behind me, and so we had a lot of good musicians on that.
Was that the current Rock Garden location that's over there in the flats?
You mean at Rock Garden?
Yeah.
Is that the one? It's under the bridge, right?
Yeah, that's the current one. Okay. Yeah, it's a great studio. It's very spacey.
And it is. And Mark's great. And every time I went, every time I went, we would see these eagles outside. We'd like go outside and talk, and there'd be like these bald eagles there or something like that, and it was really wild. Only when I was recording it was, and so I was like, it's a sign, you know. But I just love that place. It has a really good energy to it, and Mark's great.
What is it about singles that you prefer to release the singles over albums or more EPs?
I think with singles, as opposed to an actual project like an EP or an album, if you do singles, then you can kind of spread it out, spread the promotion apart. So I was really thinking about social media and what I was gonna have each single be its own separate little project. So I'd have a lot more to promote and a lot more to post about, and then with each release, so I put out like Lonely Road as a single. Then for 2 whole weeks, it's just focused on Lonely Road, And so I'm squeezing the most out of the little amount of songs that I had at the time by putting out singles. Yeah.
There was a period too where you went under the name Jackson C.R.O.W.
Yeah.
And then you kind of pulled away from that. What was behind the decision to do that, and what kind of problems does that cause now that you're back to going by Jackson Mankowski? Is there any
confusion?
Yeah. Is there any possibility that you'll go back to Jackson C.R.O.W., or is that behind you now?
It's behind me now. I changed it because, and I forget exactly what year it was that I started doing that, possibly 2018. But I think I changed it because I was going to open mics in LA, and I would say it's Mankowski, and they'd be like, Mankowski, like what? And they couldn't say it and figure it out. So I just thought, I'm going to simplify this, but I want my name to stand for something. So I kind of had this whole idea where it would be Jackson C.R.O.W., but it was an acronym. So it was C.R.O.W., I think. But
what did the acronym stand for?
Create One World is what it was. And I had this whole nonprofit with it that I was like kind of thinking about doing. But it's not happening anymore because I have other things I'm working on now. But that was the idea, was to have the name represent who I was as my artist self. And I started a little record label too called T Raven Records. And I was trying to do this whole branding thing. And eventually I just figured out I just want to be myself, and have my name be the like Jackson Mankowski. I wanted to go by that. So over a couple of years, I just decided to kind of back away from, and it's hard because it was like there were periods in my name, so it was like C.R.O.W. So if I said Jackson C.R.O.W., people are like, oh, like the bird, and it's like, no, I'm talking about an acronym, But so that was hard to explain to people, and when they'd look me up, they'd forget to put the periods, and it was harder to get my music out there because I chose to do an acronym. So, but I'm glad I experienced it. I'm glad I tried it, because otherwise I'd still be trying to figure out how to like rebrand myself and change my name and all that stuff, But I already did that, so I'm happy just going with myself. Now it's a lot easier.
It's a totally different ball game today compared to 15 years ago. Do you find some of that stuff sort of gets in the way of creating music, as far as just creating content, creating a brand? Like everything's brand. You mean brand.
Like TikTok, social media, stuff like that?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm on TikTok right now because I just decided I'm just going to just say, well, I'll just do it, and I started to not think as much that hard about it. For a while I was thinking super hard about it. It was all I thought about was social media, getting more followers, until I started focusing on other things, and I got in a relationship, and then COVID happened and all this stuff. And so the organic growth that I got from singing cover songs on Instagram for a long time in 2017 or something, 16, 17, 18. 17 or 18. I was doing requests on Instagram a lot. And that was getting me a lot of organic growth. And I did a Lifehouse cover, and they posted me on their page. And I was like, I got to keep doing this, because this is how to get yourself out there. So my thing was, you comment any song and I'll sing it. And so that did me pretty well for a little bit. But then I dropped off, and then Instagram doesn't reward you if you drop off, so you kind of have to start from scratch. And then if your follower ratio thing is all messed up, if you have a lot of followers, or actually if you're following a lot of people, it's not as Instagram doesn't reward that or something. So there's a lot of things I learned about it, but I took a lot of time off, and I kind of lost all my organic growth, and now I'm kind of getting back into it. And just not thinking too hard about it, but just putting out what I think is quality content. Yeah. For myself. And yeah.
Did COVID sort of like push more of like the branding, the social media? I mean, I know it was pretty strong before that, but it couldn't have helped at all with everybody kind of trapped in their house trying to figure out how to stay relevant.
I kind of would be off and on social media in quarantine. I think I got more excited when everything lifted after quarantine, and then that's when I started posting more because I was like excited about it again. But for a while, everyone was just really depressed and inside, and I was inside and I had a lot of time, but I chose to spend that time with like my girlfriend at the time and other things. So I kind of stepped away from music for like 2 years.
Was that like a complete step away? No songwriting, no recording?
Yeah, I couldn't write a song for a whole year, maybe more. No recording either, but I had these recordings I did like before quarantine with Dan. So then I started just working on those, and I was like, okay, I'm going to release those because I've already done them. And I want them out under my name, Jackson Mankowski, and I'm going to re-release everything under Jackson C.R.O.W, under Jackson Mankowski now, to kind of give people an idea of where I'm at as an artist before I start writing and releasing new music, because then I want that to be a new chapter. So I had to kind of finish what I started and put that stuff out. And then, so I put out Here to Stay and Drowning in My Mind that I did with Dan during that time. And that was like all I was doing with music, really. So I just put out the ones that I already had recorded, basically. And I thought, well, I'll just write in the next coming year and put more music out soon, But yeah.
So what, when you were working with Dan Rodriguez, what did he do on the track?
Well, he had this studio called The Lodge in Minneapolis, which was super cool. It was like this little studio, so I'd go there and I'd play on my songs, and I'd be like, I think I want to record these 3. And then, so he'd kind of tweak some lyrics with me, and we'd go over it. And then I said, I'm trying to do a pop country kind of vibe, like Echo Smith. I really wanted to sound like for a while. So, because I thought I wanted to be the guy version of Echo Smith at the time, because back in 2016, 17, when we did that first project, I think Call It Home was on there, and like Before the Sun Comes Up and stuff. But so he kind of worked on some lyrics with me with that, and we co-produced it together. He did a lot of the producing, but I gave a couple ideas, and but he made me sound really good for the time, and I was like always really grateful for him.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. We've got the caller. You're on the line with Jackson Mankowski. What's your question?
Good morning. You were talking about lyrics a little bit earlier, and I'm a big fan of great lyric writers like John Mellencamp or Bryan Adams, even Andy and Tony McNamara. So I was wondering, who influenced you the most, or who really impresses you as a lyric writer?
Cool. Well, thanks for asking. Let's see. Well, I would say my biggest influence for a while was, there was John Mayer in 2016, because I liked how he kind of left a lot for the mind to kind of put together with his lyrics, and it was kind of like vague enough with the emotions to a lot of people could relate to it. But then I got into Bob Dylan, and I got into Johnny Cash, and I got into Willie Nelson, and there's something about old Willie Nelson tracks and Johnny Cash that really spoke to me. So I started writing lyrics that I thought they maybe would have written to, or that they would, if I was performing it for them, they would like to listen to it. That was kind of my fantasy. But so I'd actually say like Johnny Cash was a huge influence on my lyrics. And then I love Bon Iver, Justin Vernon. I loved him too. I still love him. And yeah.
Being a fan of Johnny Cash and
Yeah.
a lot of the Nashville stuff, you mentioned you're going to be kind of heading down to Nashville at some point soon. Do you like going to like places like, for example, old studios that some of these people recorded at, or like do you like to drive by where they used to live and look at these kind of things?
I do. When I lived in LA, I would find places, especially like movie filming locations. I'd say to my friend, like, we're going to go here today and I'm going to surprise you where we're going. And I'll be like, oh, I was in this movie. Like, little did you know we're here. Like, so I'd do stuff like that. And I've been in studios that other idols of mine have recorded in. And that's always cool because I think they kind of leave a residual energy in the place a little. And it's inspiring and motivating. So I'd say, yeah.
So thanks for the call. If anybody else has a question, the phone number is 920-358-0795. You can also leave it in the chat, but I probably won't see those.
Cool.
So
No, that was cool that we got a call.
yeah.
I love it.
So I wanted to ask you about a song called "The New Man."
Mm-hmm.
That was on the release with a hat. You released the song and then you released it like as a like not kind of an instrumental, like almost like a karaoke version.
Yeah.
Of it. What was the decision to release that both ways?
That's a good question because I thought about that a lot. You know, I didn't know if anyone else would think about it.
There had to be some reason. I listened to the track without the vocals too, and the music is beautiful in there. But it's like I wonder if it was because of the, just how cool it is, or
because sometimes I feel like my vocals don't do the instrumentation the justice or like the overall song that I feel like it needs, and so. With that, we just had some really incredible musicians playing on that, and trying to think. I had them mixed after we recorded them. A couple years later in LA, I met this guy, Ryan Littman, who. So I took him from Mark, the old files, and I really wanted this like big sound specifically from this guy, Ryan Littman, who worked with Jamestown Revival, and he had a mastering guy in Austin, Texas. And I had them work on those songs, and he turned the instrumentation. Well, he turned A New Man into a way bigger sound than I thought was possible with it, and he squeezed out a lot of detail into it. And it really highlighted the musicians, too, that were playing on the instrumental. So I wanted to have an instrumental that people could listen to if they just wanted to put on one of my songs in the car without my vocals and not have to be like, oh, Jackson's vocals ruin it. It's like, because then they just have the instrumental so they can jam out to that.
Do you think like something like releasing the instrumentals would help with like licensing if you're trying to...
That too, actually, because... for a while, I was trying to shop my songs to be put into film and TV shows and video games or whatever. And you can do that on, like, there's Taxi, and they had an event out in LA that I went to and attended for, I think, 2 years. And I would kind of submit songs to there for placement. So I almost had a few placed, but then I stopped doing it for a while. But yeah, you can always resubmit things, and so I would love to submit the instrumentation and see if anyone would want it.
Well, talking about Dan Rodriguez, that's how he hit his big break, was he got into the beer
Bud Light
commercial. Yep.
Right, it was the Bud Light one on the Super Bowl for his something to come home was the name of the song. I'm trying to think of what it is.
That sounds
When
right.
You Come Home, right? Yeah, it was about it was like a dog commercial. Sad dog commercial for the Super Bowl. But he made a lot, yeah.
You've been lucky to have like a lot of sort of mentors. You had your dad, Woody, you had Dan Rodriguez, and you had Cory Chisel early on too. Mm-hmm. How did Cory come into the picture, and what did he provide you as far as guidance and sort of mentoring?
Bravo in Green Bay, there's that bistro, restaurant, wine bar, cafe. And my dad used to play there growing up all the time. And Julie, the owner, found out I was a musician too at that point. It must have been 2014 or 15. And Cory was playing, and I knew Julie, and she was like, I'm going to have you open for Cory. And so I opened for him and at Bravo. And then after that we talked. And then it was funny because he I think the roads were bad or he didn't have a ride that night after the gig. So we were like, just come stay over at our place. And so he comes and stays over, and I'm like 14 or 15, and we have a guest bedroom and everything. And so we were talking about music because before we left, he was like, make sure to call me because we can work together in the future or something. And so, but he stayed the night, and I made him a hole-in-one in the morning, which is like toast and an egg in it, you know. And I thought it was super cool. I was like, I'm going to make you breakfast, you know. So we had breakfast and coffee and talked. And then after a few weeks, he asked if I wanted to be an artist in residence at the Refuge in Appleton. So I did that for a while, which was great, and talked to Cory a lot and stayed there, and met some other great artists that were coming through as well. And then Mile of Music would roll around, and so he'd get busy and stuff, but we would still stay in touch, and he's awesome. Yeah, I'm always sending him good vibes, but we haven't talked in a few years, but I hope he's doing good, you know?
Well, then you played Mile of Music 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since you performed at Mile.
Yeah.
I think at the time you were like one of the youngest people to play at Mile of Music. How old were you on Mile 3?
15, I think.
So that must have been
15 or 16.
That must have been a pretty kind of scary thing, or you're
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Was it easier when you did 4 and 5?
Yeah, it was, because I had my friend Genevieve. I had like friends, you know. Genevieve Hayward plays there, and me and her were doing some shows together, and so it was not nerve-wracking if I had like friends to hang out with between the shows and before and after the shows, and then know that you're just doing, I think, 45 minutes at each place or something like that. So the nerves weren't too bad until I got asked to play on the big stage, you know, and I was younger, and like for a lot of people, I think it was, what was that main stage that's in the middle of the square or something?
Oh, Houdini Plaza.
Yeah, right. So I sang, I think, one song up there, which was amazing, but I was real nervous about that one specifically. But it turned out good. But yeah, it was great because it got me less nervous in the future to do things because I already got those done. So,
did anybody out in California know about Mile of Music when you were out there?
Maybe, possibly, I think. Yeah, I'd mention it, and I'd say to my friends, yeah, I'm from Wisconsin, there's Mile of Music, you should come play it sometime. And they were like, oh, cool. But I think a couple people were like, oh, I've heard of that. Actually, I remember specifically someone showed up at my gig and was like, we saw you in Appleton, Wisconsin at Mile of Music. That is what happened one time. And I was like, no way. And so that was pretty cool.
We were talking before the show. You mentioned that you were kind of into ghost hunting.
Oh, yeah, no.
You must have
I love
seen
all that stuff.
At the Refuge, did you see any old Refuge ghosts there?
Well, no, but then, like there was one night where I was staying there. I think it was my first night I was staying there, and I had like, you know, there's these long corridors because it was a monastery, and so then it was a church or something like that, and it's like this huge building, property, and I think I was like one of 3 people that were staying there that night, and it's huge, so it's like a hotel, you know. So I had my own room, but I fell asleep. And there was storms that night, and I woke up to the window slamming shut and a tornado alarm going off, like, you know. And so I quick got out of bed and walked down the long pitch black corridor. All you could see was the exit sign in red lit up at the end, and all these open rooms to my left and right. And I have to find my way down to the basement because there was a tornado. So I was like, I'm not even gonna think about what kind of spirits might be in here. I'm just gonna get from point A to point B right now. So we had to meet up in the basement of the Refuge while there was a tornado going on, and so that was pretty funny, but no paranormal experiences. Yeah. You
have a show that an interview show similar to this that you do on Instagram, and then you put it on YouTube. You've had some really good guests, including your dad and other people that you and your dad have known. Is that a format that you feel comfortable in, like just kind of talking with other artists?
Yeah, for sure. I love doing that because
it's called Coffee With, by the way.
That's what it is. Coffee With. Yeah, super simple. But what I wanted to do was do it on Instagram Live, and just be able to interview anyone I wanted from the comfort of their home, just going live on their Instagram and joining mine, and I'd screen record it and then upload it on YouTube. So it wasn't like a fancy thing, and the audio wasn't perfect. Nothing was perfect about it, but that's what I liked about it, was that it was just really casual, and we'd throw these things together, and because we always have conversations anyways, and I'm just like, why don't we record this right now? This would be great to put out content-wise and to listen back to a couple of years for us in the future, and we'll be like, wow, time has passed, you know. but those were some people musically that I really respected, like that I wanted to kind of show everyone that I knew on social media who they were. So my dad was a good first option to do, and we talked for like 3 hours because we didn't have an end time. And then I had Ace Von Johnson play, and he's in Nashville, and he's pretty good. He didn't play. We just interviewed. We talked. And then I had Sam Brooker from Sam and Ruby. You know Sam and Ruby?
I do not, but I'll look into them.
Yeah, they were an acoustic duo in the early 2000s. Like, they were getting pretty big. They had a song in the B Movie and some other things. But now he's in Nashville too. Everyone's in Nashville, yeah. But like, it was cool to talk to Sam and Jeff Hinnendale and Green Bay, and me and him are maybe going to do an acoustic duo in 2023, do a couple shows. So I've been like talking with him a lot recently, but yeah, it was a fun little project, and I'd like to do it again, but kind of a little similar to this, just way more high quality, and do video and audio and have it be high quality with these artists, and then travel to them to do it, and then have a YouTube channel where we put it on there. But I've just been kind of taking a break from that because I want to wait until I can create a really good end product with it on YouTube and have it be really high quality, because it was just kind of not good quality before. Yeah, I was just doing it.
Cool thing about that, though, is you're kind of joining for the conversation and hear the stories, and people should check it out. Coffee With It. It's on your YouTube channel. Just search for Jackson Mankowski, and you'll probably find it.
Yeah, I made a ton of little chapters in those videos.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Sam Luna. You mentioned him earlier. You did a live version. You released a live version doing a song at the Heist. And the Heist, if you haven't been there, is an old bank building in Ripon, Wisconsin. How you mentioned you knew Sam from the past. How did Sam reach out to you to come and play the Heist? And what was the recording like to the point where, like, I should release this because it sounds really good?
Yeah, I had been coming back from LA through the summers, or I'd spend like a pocket of time here and meet up with him while I was here. And then I'd fly back to LA and get back to doing LA stuff or whatever, living out there. But when I came back here, one of the trips he was like, come out to Ripon. I'm starting this awesome venue bar place called the Heist, and isn't it? I think the Hideout is the bar underneath it, and but it's at this old bank. And he told me about it and showed me, and he was staying at this other place down the road in Ripon too for a while, and he was going to turn that into something, but then he decided to just stick with the Heist. And so I was there when he was telling me the ideas of what he was going to do for it, and when he was starting it. And then another year went by, and I came out there, and he had it all like done up, and it was great and looking awesome, and he's having a lot of artists come in, and he said, we're recording now, so if you have any songs, we can just record you and have it be a really good video and really good audio. You could potentially just release the audio too of a live take acoustic thing. So you'll have video and audio. And I said, yes, we're doing it. So we did Giving In, and that was the latest song I wrote at the time. And yeah.
Any chance you'll be playing at the Heist again anytime soon?
Yeah, I hope so. I think so. Probably in March, April, May, June, around there, because I'm going to be going to Nashville for the whole month of February, but and then January is pretty booked, but when I get back. Yeah.
And you, in December, to go back to last month, you played at the P.A.C. You did a song with Dan Rodriguez. That's a great venue. How did it feel to grace that stage?
Well, that was the first time I had even performed.
And that was for 91.1 The Ave, I think, right? The yearly Christmas thing.
Yeah, I didn't know like what I was really getting myself into when he asked me to do it in a good way. I was just saying yes to what he was. I knew that it was going to be something good because he was like, I got something to ask you about. And he called me and asked me. And I said, well, of course, you know. And so not thinking about if I'd be nervous or not, you know, but there's a lot of people at the P.A.C.
Yeah, Jamie Kent sitting up there.
Yeah, like Dan and Jamie Kent, which it was great to meet them. And they had some other awesome Nashville artists coming too, like Danny Nichols and Kelly, I think. And is it the Boscombe Band? What are they called?
Boscombe Hill?
Boscombe Hill. Yep, they were there. Or is it Bascombe Hill? One of those. Sorry, guys. but they were there. And it was just amazing to meet all of them and hang out. And but yeah, I think I played my Christmas song and that we recorded together like a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. And his wife Megan sang harmony on it, and he played electric guitar on it, and it was an honor. It was super fun. And I was nervous, but once you get on stage, you have no choice but to just be confident and do your best and try it. So I was like, the only way out's through. It's going to be great, you know. And then it went beyond great. And then we went and played Gibson Music Hall at the after show and did Tennessee Whiskey and had fun. Yeah.
2 great venues, one night.
Yeah, it was great. I love the P.A.C.
Is there a performance that kind of rated to the top as your favorite gig ever?
That one? You asked, or any?
Any. Is there one that was the top?
I don't know if I'd say there's like a top best gig, but because I've had a lot of unique gigs, and the unique ones are sometimes like I played at a roller derby one time on the ice, you know, when I was younger and like just random stuff. But yeah, the big stages are fun to play on, but intimate settings are also really fun too, like listening rooms. So yeah, I don't really have like a favorite gig in mind actually, but I like it when people really listen. But then sometimes I also just like when it's a casual vibe and I'm just up there strumming and singing and we're all having a good time, having a drink, and those are always just great. I'm like, how is this my job? You know? So yeah.
Let's take a moment to mention another kind of person that's sort of mentoring a little bit, Kurt Gunn.
Oh yeah, Kurt Gunn. Yeah, Kurt's awesome. He's a amazing songwriter, and he's living in De Pere right now, but he's in Appleton a lot. And I met him around the same time I met Sam and Cory in Appleton, and Mark and all the Appleton musicians actually.
Kurt's like a songwriting machine.
Yeah, he's a force to be reckoned with for sure. I really respect his songwriting. I in LA I would listen to The Avenue all the time, and they would play his songs on The Avenue. So every time Kurt would come on, I'd be like, yeah, you know. And he's such a cool dude, and we've had some great conversations, and we've played the same gigs and the same places, and so I feel like yeah, I understand him a little bit, and it's just always a pleasure getting to see him. Yeah, but he's an amazing songwriter, so you should listen to him.
Do you feel at the Green Bay scene sometimes with Mile of Music and everything going on down here that Green Bay kind of gets the short end of the stick? I mean, they've got so much going on up there, like Steel Bridge, that's been going on for a while, and I know you participated in that. They've got great venues up there like the Lyric Room and multiple places. Do you feel that sometimes it sort of sits in the shadow of Appleton?
Honestly, like, yeah, I'm so fresh to the area. I'm kind of trying to get my lay of the land right now still. But in Green Bay, I would love to see. I know that there's Gather on Broadway. There's the Lyric Room. There's the Meyer Theater. There's there's other places like Titletown on the rooftop in the summer, at least. There's a lot of music. And Studio 1212. I love Studio 1212. And then La Vie Boheme in De Pere. And then Plank Road. I was there last night. And Plank Road is really great. They have a great stage that's just plug in and play. And I think if more venues had the plug in and play option, I think it'd be easier to have a lot of live music in the area. So yeah, but I've actually been thinking about in the future, I don't know how long it would be, but I would like to start something and book musicians at a place in Green Bay or my own venue or something, and I have plans for that, but I'm not going to like go into detail about it yet. But I've actually thought about ways to bring more music to Green Bay and De Pere too, because I'm from De Pere, so I would love to add to the arts scene there if I can with whatever I got, you know. So that's been on my mind a lot recently. Yeah.
If somebody's just finding out about you for the first time, is there a song that you would suggest they check out that sort of encompasses, they only have time for one song that sort of encompasses you as an artist?
Well, I'd say Giving In, because I'm really proud of that song, because normally it takes me a long time to write, and that one only took me like less than a day, because I was really feeling it. And that one really resonated with me, and it's just about giving in to whatever you shouldn't be giving into, basically. And I think that's important to talk about, because we're all human and we all mess up, but and we give in sometimes. And you know, a lot of people go to AA and then they give in and then do it again, and they have to go back, and you just have to keep going back. But that's normal. Like, we're all human, and so we all just have to accept each other for what we're giving into and say, like, I give in too, you know, to whatever, anger issues, to substances, being negative a lot. Like, we all give in, but it's important to know when we give in, because then we know that we're giving in and we should not. You know what I mean? So, but we should all just accept each other for that. So that's kind of what that song is about, relating to people who give in to things that they know they shouldn't, maybe, but that it's okay.
We are getting near the end of the show. Can we strong arm you into doing a live song after the commercial break?
Yes, for sure.
Any idea what you're going to play yet?
Yeah, I'm going to play a really random one called Pretty Face, because I just thought I'd have fun with it and do one that's not too serious and just a good jam. You left me all your pain, said I feel my heart break, but it's okay, it's alright, I feel fine. You took away my car so you could drive, I guess I won't know how far, but it's alright, that's okay, this heart won't break. Do whatever you want and call me names, move along and leave without a trace. And while you're on your own, you go looking for another one who'll fall for nothing more than just a pretty face. You're gonna cry, 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 but you won't be alone. You're gonna cry out your eyes on another man's shoulder, but that's alright, honey, that's alright. Just don't cry out the pretty green in your eyes and never come back asking why, because I'm not the same, you're to blame, but baby, that's alright. Do whatever you want and call me names, move along and leave without a trace. And while you're on your own, you go looking for another one and fall for nothing more than just a pretty face. You'll fall for nothing more than just a pretty face.
Keep your eye out for future things from Jackson Mankowski. Go follow him on all the socials. Thank you for watching Fox Cities Core on WCZR, New Rock for New Radio, Code Zero Radio.